Welcome to the Online Academy of Irish Music. I'm Cillian and I'm going to be your tutor for this guitar accompaniment course. So in this lesson today we're going to learn how to accompany the well-known Irish reel, the silver spear, which is a reel in D. And I'm going to take you through some just grounding rhythms on your right hand, just some rooting things, and then I'm going to show you how to make some very basic chord patterns sound quite effective. So you don't need much, you're just going to take what you have and make it develop it a little further. So we're delighted to hear that so many of you enjoyed my first course on the OAIM, and we're here to follow on where we left off with some of the things. So we're going to develop on some of the techniques we had in the first one. So for those of you who don't know me from before, I'll just tell you about myself. I studied in the University of Limerick for 4 years doing the Irish Music and Dance course. And then from there on, I moved on to tour certain parts of the world with a great band called the Outside Track. And it was good times. And then about 2 years ago now, I've kind of set up my roots in Ireland, and I've currently opened up a studio in Limerick, which is a recording studio and a creative space for workshops and rehearsals and things. The studio is called Temper and Flux. Follow us on Facebook and you'll be kept up to date with any fun things that are going to be coming up in the future. So to tell you about this course of 13 lessons that's coming up, we're going to take you through some basic patterns, as I said before, how to show you how to make basic chord patterns sound effective. Just means that you don't need to learn loads of crazy chords. You can just learn, keep what you have, but just know how to apply it properly. We're going to develop some strumming patterns, just some right hand techniques, because that makes a lot of a difference when you're backing a tune. I'm going to teach you a small bit about capo technique, using the capo to make your life a bit easier when you're facing harder keys to back, and basic chord substitution so that you can substitute chords for other ones just to change the theme in the tune, and then some other tips and tricks that will just give you the confidence to try new things when you're playing in a traditional Irish session. So we hope you enjoy this lesson, and let's get started. Here's the silver spear. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there you have it. So there's a few things that we're going to look at in this tune. There's two different rhythms that we used, and we're using one of them in the A part and one of them in the B part. And then you probably noticed that the chord structure is not too fancy or crazy at all. It's just pretty much we're cycling between D, G, and A the odd time. Some voicing changes, and then some chord replacements just in the last B part. Why not have a little fun with it? So we'll start right at the start. And so the D chord that I would operate off when starting off was just a D chord, and it's not even a full D chord. I'm not even bothering to play this high F here. It just makes it all a bit too cheery for me. So I just leave it out and just let that string ring. So you've just got a nice kind of an open D sound. There's no F sharps in it that define that it's a major chord. So there's no thirds, it's all just fifths right now. That's the chord we're cycling around. You may have noticed that my thumb is hanging over the top here, and I like to keep him hanging on the 2nd fret, because keeping your thumb hanging over it on the 2nd fret means you can get an F sharp in the bass, which is just a kind of a nice inversion for the chord if you're following on with a G after that. So let's say you're playing along. So you lead into the G with that F sharp bass, just kind of warms it up from the underneath as you start, you know. So those are the kind of chords we're looking at. But before I go further into the chords, let's look at the right hand for a second. We've two rhythms in this whole video, and in the A part we're looking at what we call the backbeat. So essentially, if you were to count in 4, you're putting the heavy emphasis on the 3. So 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4. So it's always on the. And for traditional Irish music, this is a good beat. If you're not sure what the tune needs in terms of the rhythm, this is a pretty safe bet, because I think trad generally has a pulse that kind of likes to fall on the backbeat. So if you're ever unsure, it's a kind of a safe place to go, you know. So we're just cycling in, and I mean, once you've got a good solid beat like that on the go, you don't need to do much with your chords over here. Like, if you can just let that groove be the accompaniment, you're not just a chord instrument, but you're also a rhythm instrument. So you can let the chord take a back seat for a while and just let this help the tune along, you know. So and so what you saw there is you just stay on that D for ages and then just cycle out of it with a nice open G, and it just kind of opens the thing up again. And as soon as you come back to the D, then you can kind of go back down to. So at the end there, you can see we're just doing a G, and I'm running this guy down to an F sharp again. I'll advance on that in a second, and then we follow it up with an A, and that's just your 5 chord there. So it's a nice place to end. So I talked a little bit about this thumb hanging over onto the 2nd fret, and so when you're cycling up to a G with that, that's nice. But when you're coming down again, I always like to, it's not so much that you're just playing this bass note, but you want to also play a D chord underneath that, because what you're playing is a D with an F sharp in the bass. So on the piano, that would be, I guess, is it a D first inversion? I don't know, if I might be wrong there, but so you've got G, and then you're cycling down to that D with the F sharp in the bass. So you can see these two guys here are still the same way as they would be here, except for I'm using this first finger up above. And it's just got a nice warmth to it, you know, it just leads on nicely, and then you just follow that up with the A. So again, we're cycling through that whole A part just with that backbeat. And I think the trick to this is to give the melody player something solid that they can really play to, and that they can trust that that beat is going to be there. That backbeat really gives them that. So you kind of go. So at that point, the melody player never has to worry that you're going to try some weird syncopations or that you might fall out of time, because they can tell very clearly that you're just staying rooted in that heavy 3, you know. So then when we move on to the B part, we're changing it up, and I guess what we're applying here is a little bit of syncopation, but I think it has more the effect of kind of, it feels almost like the guitar player has gone to half time. So it's kind of like you've just broken the beat in the middle and you're playing it half as fast. And so you're going. And if you've ever played any kind of a pop or a folk song, this is the rhythm that you'll generally hear. It's all over the place. So essentially you're just going for a. That's pretty much what you're looking at there. So when you're coming out of the first A part rhythm, and what happens is once that rhythm takes effect, the whole thing just takes a big breath for itself, and it just gives the tune a kind of a chance to take a different direction as it goes on to the B part, you know. And so it's nice. It kind of it takes that heaviness out of the A part that you had in the A part out of it as well. And so, I mean, you can see we're changing chords here, but the chord is almost just changing around the bass, really. Like you can see this guy here just stays put. And here's that D with the inversion again. And so by changing your dynamics in terms of how heavy and light you're strumming, that's what gives each part its own identity, rather than trying to come up with a whole bunch of new chords for each part. You can more so just do it with the right hand. Just take the dynamic off, let the thing open out, maybe move your pleck back a little bit so you're playing the strings a little bit brighter than right up here where they're warmer, you know. And the chord pattern in the B part is pretty much the same as the first. And I think the second time, or in that B part, towards the end of that B part, what I think I did actually, see when I just finished on an A chord there, you're going to place that A chord with the A chord up here. And it's another voicing, but it's just change of scenery. Change of scenery for the tune is all it is, you know. And that's the B part. So when we come out of that B part and we go back into the A part again, now the ear of the listener is being brought back to the A part that's very familiar to them because they've already heard it once. So at this point it's a really cool idea again to bring that beat back again, that heavy beat, because they're familiar with the tune and they're being given a more grounding beat. It's a win-win for the listener. So immediately they're kind of like, oh, I'm involved at this point, you know. So, and then the other thing that you can elaborate on as well, as just other than just bringing that rhythm back, you can also, you've got your D chord that I was doing here, but if you bring your pinky right up to the top here, that's another A note to add into the chord. Now the A is the fifth note over the D, which means we still haven't added any thirds in here, which means that it's still just an open chord. It's a nondescript. It's just D's and A's all the way down through it, you know. If you notice this finger hanging up here, he's just here to kill these two strings because they make the whole thing very muddy if they're ringing out. So this way you've got a nice 4-string chord going on. Yeah, now in this case my thumb isn't hanging over the top because I'm using it for support at the back because I've got this finger stretched all the way out to here. And so he's dead up here as well. So I use my first finger. I bring my first finger around if I want to move between G and F sharp, and then to A I can just go flat. I'm barring on the A chord there. So you've got. And so by taking that approach where you're keeping a chord in place and all you're doing is moving the bass note, it's almost like you're transforming your guitar into two different instruments, because you've got the one thing here that's keeping this kind of a bass drone on the go, and then also you've got this lower end thing moving around that's got its own kind of a melody, which is quite cool because it just kind of splits it up so you can keep strumming. Sure, it can get a little bit messy sometimes. You're not going to hit every note, and sometimes you might get a buzzy note, but that's all part of it. You know what I mean? It's all kind of part of the character, and it's not just me trying to make excuses for any mistakes I'm making right now. And so that works out all the way through the A part there. And that's what we've got going on there. And you just, again, as I said before, when you're in the second time of a tune, you can just push the dynamic a little bit harder. Everybody's familiar with the tune at this point. You can really, everybody's back on familiar turf now that you've come back into the A part again. So you can just hit it a bit harder on the right hand. And I'm going to be talking a little bit throughout the 13 lessons of this course. I'm going to be talking about dampening a little bit. And dampening essentially is just where we're using this part of our hand here to mute the strings on the bridge, but not too. If you go too far up, nothing happens, and if you go too far back, there's no dampening at all. So there's a sweet spot, but we'll get into that during the 13 lessons as well. But so it's a good technique if you're trying to build tension with that backbeat. You can add those that dampening in there as well, you know. And so finally we're on to the last B part, and we're doing the same thing again, where we go into that syncopation and it just kind of opens it out again, so it feels almost like we're going to half time. We're not actually going to half time, but it has that, it's like an illusion essentially. But again, because this is the last B part, feel free to hit it nice and hard, you know, you don't need to pull away from it this time, you can really go for it. You can do everything the same as you did in the first B part, except for you can just do it kind of a bit louder and stronger here. You can really emphasize those chords, And then in the last B part, there was one chord substitution that I did. And so that's essentially just where we're replacing the root chord, which is the number 1 chord, which is D in this case, with its relative minor, which is a B minor. And if you want to replace a chord, a relative minor is always a great way to go. They're pretty much replaceable. And then a nice way to get into a B minor is by going from a 5th below it with a major chord. So in this case, a B minor, the 5th below is an F sharp. And so you get yourself an F7. And so if you can tie that so that the F sharp leads to the B minor, you're laughing. So essentially the way that would sound would be... So I think that comes from, I think it's rooted in blues, to be honest, where you're using a 5th below and the 7th to get to that relative minor. But that's pretty much it there. So what we're going to do at this point of the lesson now is we're going to play the tune for you, but quite a bit slower than what we did in the first one around, to just give you a chance to apply the techniques that we just talked about during this video. So 1, 2, 3, 4.